Whoops. I think we're live.
All right.
Let's see if it comes through.
Cool, cool.
Give it
Whoops.
just a second, and there we are. Hey, that one worked that time. Oh my God! How did
Excellent.
that happen?
Pure luck.
All right,
It,
everybody.
it was all you.
I'm not sure how I did that. All right, so for this one, yeah, why not? Let's get some. We'll get the music that I never get to use.
Powered by
Since it is
Riverside
working,
FM.
might as well.
I love it. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Rainy Nights. I am Rainy Ryder. Tonight I am here with Smokey the Van, and we are going to talk about living down by the river in a van.
Yes.
So I don't.
And motorcycles. That's part of
And
it too. But yeah.
motorcycles.
But
So
yes, I do truly live in a van down by the river. Actually, in the middle of the desert right now because it's winter.
well, right on. Yeah, you're the legend here. You should be asking me questions. Oh my God. So
I don't know about that.
we'll,
It's
we'll
all
kick
right.
right we'll kick right into this.
Do
So
it.
where are you from and what do you ride?
Well, we already know where I live in a van down by the river. I grew up in Massachusetts. I've lived in New Hampshire, Maine, but never really got doing it all until I hit the road in March of 2021. As for what I ride, a lot of people will know me with my Kawasaki KLR 650, but I just sold that almost 2 weeks ago. I now ride a 2011 Suzuki V-Strom 650. It's a little bit faster. Then
Right
again,
on.
most bikes are faster than the KLR.
Oh, oh, we're already starting to lose you. Dang it.
Uh-oh.
Hang on. It'll come
Oh, that
back.
ain't good. Okay.
We're hanging in. Well, we can hear you fine, so if you want to keep talking, I guess we'll just
Okay,
listen.
great. Okay, yeah, you know what I look like. The cat's the better looking one anyway, but a black cat against a black blanket on the bed doesn't show up very well.
Oh yeah. So how long have you been riding? I guess we'll just go ahead and do the audio part of this. And just have faith you'll come
Uh,
back.
Not there. Okay, well, we'll have to hope. I've been riding for something over 20 years. I lost count. Um, and only the past 3 years or so have I done any kind of dirt riding. But yeah, a little over 20 years on two wheels.
Right on. So how did you get into motorcycles?
Well, that came from mainly two things. One is literally my earliest childhood memory is of my dad sitting me in front of him on his little Honda 450. And we did a couple of slow laps in the yard around the house, like walking speed. And that memory just stuck in my head, and I've loved motorcycles ever since. The other thing that got me into motorcycles was watching way too many episodes of Chips at a young, impressionable age. That just convinced me that motorcycles were cool. This is like the early 80s. So, Chips was on TV all the time. And just seeing Ponch and John out there doing their thing is like, yes, that's cool. That's what I want to do.
I remember
So
thinking that
that's how I got the bug.
I remember thinking that Chips drove Harleys, and then once I found out they drove Kawasaki's, I thought it was even cooler.
Uh-huh. Yeah. They it's funny, those old police Kawasaki's, I mean, they did things like they put on floorboards and a heel toe shifter to make them more like a Harley. I guess so the cops would still have the controls they're used to from the Harleys, but yeah, they did that. It's interesting.
So who inspires you to ride? Days that you don't really feel like riding, who makes you go, yeah, I should probably get out and ride today?
Oh, let's see. As the magpie flies, Amanda Zitto, her catchphrase is "get out and do the thing." And anytime I'm like, it's cold, it's windy, I don't feel like it, I just hear her in my head saying, get out and do the thing. And so I get out and do the thing. And when it comes to dirt riding, Ever-Ride, of course, top of the list there. But right up there, too, is, of all people, Shade Tree Surgeon. Because some might remember a few years back, he was racing hare scrambles a bit, and he'd post these super long videos of his races and things like that. And they didn't do very well on his channel, but I always liked them. The part about those that inspired me is that he demonstrated that it's okay to go out there and ride dirt and suck at it, because it's okay to suck, especially when you're starting and don't know what you're doing, making mistakes, crashing, whatever. That is how you learn. So that was kind of one of my biggest inspirations when I started to learn dirt riding. It's like, hey, if this guy could suck out there, so can I. It's perfectly all right. And for both of us, eventually we got enough experience and practice where we actually didn't suck so much anymore. I'm an okay dirt rider now. I'm no pro. I haven't had any professional training, but I don't tip the bike over anymore, mostly, which is good. I've already dropped the V-Strom once, but that was on pavement and it rolled forward off the kickstand. So I don't count that as a crash. I count that as stupid.
I remember him saying when he was doing the hare scrambles, it's okay to get out and finish last. It's not okay to not try.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, I wasn't even racing, but yeah, I had to get out there and try.
You got to get on there somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So, would you rather do a solo ride or a group ride?
Each has its appeal. I mostly ride solo, mainly because it's so rare I can find other people to ride with, and that goes back to my my past life before I lived on the road. Out here, it's just even harder to find people to ride with. I do enjoy the occasional group ride. What I really enjoy is the way the New England riders do it. That is a large group, obviously out of the New England area, but they're all over the place. I'm still happy to be associated with them, even though I'm pretty much out west these days. When they organize a ride, you're not expected to go in a group or ride in formation or anything like that. It's like, here's the route, here's what we're going to do. You're on your own. If you want to pick a few friends to hang with, that's totally fine. But there's no expectation that we're all going to ride as a group, which I find a lot more fun, because when I ride, I'm out there to, not go fast, but I definitely like to optimize my performance, shall we say. Instead of sticking in, a staggered formation, I like using the entire width of the lane and taking the racing line through the turns. That's just fun. Even at the speed limit, you can tell it feels good when you get a corner, or especially a series of corners, right. And I like the freedom to do that. That group, we will regroup at a lunch stop or various points along the way. We'll all pull over, take in a nice scenic spot or something like that, talk a bit, and then we'll start riding again. But when you're riding, it's a good combination of being you on your own and other people. And like I say, if you want to hook up with a group of friends and ride as a small group, that's fine too. But I usually end up solo, just because that's how I roll, I guess.
Right on. So, what is your favorite moto meetup? I kept hearing it, believe it or not. So I've made the last two Forgotten Angels. I kept hearing your name, but I have not got to meet you yet. So
yeah, I haven't been to one yet. I am really, really hoping to get there in March. I just got laid off from my day job. But I'm picking up more freelance work, and I'm hoping to still make the trip across the country. I got some business to take care of in New England anyway, and finish closing out my life there. I've still got a storage unit, and I might as well go to Florida in March for the Forgotten Angels meet. So I can't claim that as my favorite yet, simply because I haven't been, but I'm really looking forward to going. My favorite meetup that I've been to, it's weekly, at least during not winter, in Milford, New Hampshire, the Northeast Moto Society. Fairly small local group on Facebook, but they just gather. It used to be at Union Coffee. Now it's at where is the place? Well, anyway, I'll figure out. Station 101. That's it, right in the center of Milford, New Hampshire. It started as a vintage motorcycle group, but the beauty of it is that people would show up on absolutely anything, and they welcome everybody. People there are really friendly. They're interested in all the bikes, no matter what kind they are. You could show up with a Ninja H2. You could show up with a Pacific Coast 800, which is what I used to ride. You could show up with a dirty old KLR, and there'll probably be another one there, and maybe you can find someone to ride with. A lot of vintage bikes do still show up, and those are really, really cool. There's a lot of custom jobs to come in. It's just, you never know what you're going to see from one week to the next. And that's what I love about it. Plus, the group of regulars is great, and that is one thing I do miss about living in New Hampshire, is just being close to this group and these meetups. It's a good time.
Oh, I love going to you go to any motorcycle store, any dealership that's having a little get together, and there's always some crazy bike outside that everybody's just staring at, and that's what I love about those just impromptu kind of things. So
yeah.
Speaking of impromptu ones, what's the best meetup you had that's not a normal thing, but all of a sudden a bunch of bikers got together and met somewhere, and you're like, wow, this is really cool. Have you ever had an experience like that?
Recently, actually, yeah. I spent the week between Christmas and New Year's out in Los Angeles visiting some friends out there. Van life in Los Angeles is extremely hard, but I've got the cheat code of a friend who lives there. So I park on the street, and I'm not actually living in the van while I'm there. I'm in the house. It's legit, and they all ride, which is how I know them. So I was out with one of my friends. We're tearing up the canyons north of LA and all that. Amazing riding out there. And partly through the ride, my friend I'm staying with texts us that she's going to the leaders meeting at the Ace Cafe in LA that night. And the leaders, it's a women writers group, but she explicitly says I should come along. I'm like, okay. Well, the next thing I know, my friend that I'm out on this ride with, we're on our way to the Ace Cafe, a couple hours before the leaders meet up. So we got time for, a couple of beers and dinner. Then the ladies show up, and, hanging out with them was fun. Saw some old friends. I made a few new ones. Totally not in the plan when we left that day. But for me, at least, it was completely impromptu and a really good time. That's a really neat place. There are various Ace Cafes around the country, around the world even. If you got a chance to check it out, it's great. Our dinner table was right next to a beautiful BMW Airhead parked next to us. It's that kind of a place.
Awesome. Yeah, I love those kind of things. Me and my wife, the Pillion, we did something like that one time. There was a group. We bumped into a guy who was on a Gullwing, and he says, "Yeah, every Saturday morning my group takes a little ride. We're a Gullwing group." So we get there, and there's a bunch of old people. It's like, okay, we'll ride with these old people. That'll kill a couple hours in the morning. So 14 hours later, and about 1,000 miles later, this Gullwing group, they just took off. So we were in Arkansas. They drove all the way across Arkansas, went through Hot Springs, went through Batesville, went through Blytheville, Walnut Ridge, rode up all the way into Missouri and back down. 7 o'clock at night, we're like, hey, we got to get home. They're like, well, we're just going to make a couple more stops. We might stop around 9. I'm like, been fun, but and it was fun because, like I said, we put almost 1,000 miles down that day with the old people, and they just never stopped. They would stop for pie, take off again, stop for something to eat, take off again, and literally we just rode all day long, and it was absolutely awesome. And the best parts of Arkansas.
And when you're on a Goldwing, I mean, you can put down those kinds of miles easy.
Yeah, well, they were flying. They were booking.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they are not slow.
No, they're not. And I think all those guys were retired, and I think they just were ready to die anyway because they were taking these hills and curves in Arkansas at about 80 miles an hour. I'm on a Honda Sabre 1100, and I'm barely keeping up with these guys. I'm on the hot rod of Harley at the time, or a Honda, and I couldn't keep up with these guys. So it's freaking crazy.
That's the thing. They got years of skill under their belts,
Yes.
so neither of us have because we're not that old yet.
Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah. All right. What is the stupidest thing you have ever done on a motorcycle? Something you've done, and right after you did it, you're like, I should not have done that.
Yeah, that was right here in Quartzsite, Arizona, actually. There is an extensive network of trails all around the BLM. That's Bureau of Land Management, not Black Lives Matter in this case, but all kinds of trails out here and everything. And I decided to do a little loop connecting one of the camping areas where I am to the next one up to the north. What could possibly go wrong, right? Yeah. So I'm from New England. I'm not used to the desert, and I got out there, and things got a lot more technical than I thought they were going to. It started easy, super good times. There were a few challenging bits, but nothing I couldn't handle. Then it got into stuff that I'd really rather not handle, and I was far enough in at this point that the best way to get out was to just keep going no matter what, because going back was going to be pretty sketchy too. There were some hills that were a lot steeper than I was comfortable going on. There was a lot of really soft gravel. There's not a lot of sand here in particular. It's very well packed down, but there's lots of gravel, lots of loose rocks. Basically, I was just in over my head pretty much as soon as I reached the point of no return. Especially now, if I was on a little 250 or something, it wouldn't have been as much of an issue because the bike would be easier to handle than the KLR. And if I drop it, no big deal to pick it up. KLR, I've got 2 lifts in me, and I'm done for the day. So I had to use those sparingly. Actually, I don't think I dropped the bike at all on that ride, but seriously over my head. And I was out there alone too. They say if you're going to go out and ride trails, you should go in a group for safety. And also, if someone drops a bike, it's easier to pick it up. But I couldn't. I was looking for people to ride with out here. I couldn't find any. I went out on my own anyway, and I got away with it and decided, okay, great, I got through that. That's something I never need to do again.
But it does give you a feeling of accomplishment. I mean, you're
it sure does.
I did that. Even if I never did it again, you can say, I did it.
Yeah, and I'm glad I did it, but that was the beginning of the end for my interest in any serious off-road riding, which is what led me to swap the KLR for a V-Strom, which is even less dirt capable. It can still do like dirt roads, Forest Service roads, but it's not as capable as a KLR on the dirt.
Yeah, it's more for accidental. I'm off the road, and I need to take this gravel road to get to another highway.
Yeah, and I'm setting it up with a few things like I've already got an engine guard on it because the oil filter on that engine is the same engine as the SV650. And that oil filter sits at the bottom front of the engine block. It's just asking for the front tire to kick rocks up at it. So I put an engine guard on it. That's protected. It already came with crash bars. I do want to get some different tires on it. It's on strictly street tires right now. I'll go for like a 80/20 tire, so it's a little more dirt capable. Just enough so when it's not by accident, I want to go ride through like a national forest or something like that. It'll do okay. And even then, if the road's washed out, it gets too gnarly, I'll just turn back. I'm not afraid to be a chicken.
We'll take some time real quick and welcome everybody that's come out to watch us. So we've got Crazy Cooter, Casey, as always. Chase is here.
As always.
Grandma Rides. This is the first time she's came to see one of my interviews, and I feel very privileged to have her. She's becoming a legend herself in the motor world here. It's insane. Of course, I've got the Pillion here with me. Hatter's here. Mm-hmm. Mad Yankee's here. Who else we got? Oh, and my lifelong friend, Downtown 650, a guy I've known since I was 5 years old. So I've known him for 10 years. Yeah, that's it.
Cool. Well, hello to all.
Buck
Thanks
Brown's
for coming.
Here. Yeah, I've known this guy for 47 years. Holy crap. And then Matt's here, 9 Wheels on 2 Wheels. I'm always happy to see him because that means he's still above ground.
Yep, for sure.
And Buck Brown made it in. So
excellent.
I want to ask you a
Good.
question.
Glad you all could make it.
As a
Go for
KLR
it.
guy, there's three things that they say you should immediately do to a KLR, and I've always wanted to ask a guy about these things. So
All right, go for it.
tell me those things. It's the super plug, the thingamajig, and then there's something else you always have to put on it. So what are those things? I'm really curious.
There's the doohickey, and that is,
doohickey.
that's its unofficial name. What it is, it's the cam chain tensioner. And the ones that come from the factory are notoriously weak to the point where over time, as the chain stretches and it puts more and more tension on it, eventually it'll run out of travel, grenade inside your engine, and you're going to have a bad day. My KLR came with that already upgraded, the standard Eagle mic part. I asked before I bought it, and I have the receipts for it, so I know it was done right. So that's the big one. Another common issue is, I think they call it the thermobob. I'm not terribly familiar with that. It has to do with cooling the engine and things like that. I don't recall if mine had that done or not. The only time I had an overheating problem on that bike was when the engine fan temperature sensor crapped out on me, which is completely different. I was able to short things out, turn on the fan, and get back to camp. And then I ran with a switch for many months until I was somewhere where I could actually drain the radiator, replace that switch, and then everything worked fine again. The third thing, I'm not thinking of it. Those are the two I'm most familiar with.
The third thing I do know about, because I know two people that have knocked them off, it is the old drain plug, changing it to an outie to an innie. Because they said that's what you're always catching the drain plug on everything, on logs and things you're trying to get over, so you change that drain plug to an innie. That one I do know.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't have that, but I did have a really beefy bash plate on the bottom that was lower than the drain plug. And even had a convenient hole cut out so you could stick a wrench in and still reach it. So, yeah, I was unaware of that one, but that makes sense, knowing what it looks like down there.
Carson just made it in. Always happy to see Carson also. He's my favorite dinner buddy when he comes to visit me.
Excellent.
For now. More people will come visit me. I know they will.
Cool.
You guys in the audience, if you got any questions for Smokey Devan, please ask, because that's what it's all about. These interviews, I want it to, for all of us to learn more about each other, because we're all one great group, and I like it that way. So
absolutely.
You guys got questions? Drop them in the comment section. I'm watching them right now.
You got questions? We've got answers.
So this may line up with your last answer, but what is your scariest moment on a bike?
Scariest moment. That trip, yes, it was one of them. I think my scariest moment, it was another off-road trip I did last year. It was actually a pretty short ride. I was following a trail. This is down in the Imperial Dam area down near Yuma, Arizona. And following some trails, it took me over the tops of some hills, and then I got to a point where I just kind of froze up, because I'll let you in on a little secret just between you, me, and the entire internet. I have a bit of a fear of heights. And so this trail was going along the ridges of these hills with really steep drop-offs on either side. And I wouldn't say I freaked out, but my anxiety just went, stratospheric, because, oh dear, if I drop this is a very, very long way down. So I ended up chickening out. I mean, I was already on top of the thing. I just had to figure out how to get this down as quickly and as safely as possible without tumbling down the side of the hill myself. And I did manage to do that. I don't think I dropped it. I know I didn't hurt myself, but yeah, that was probably the moment in riding when I had the most fear. Because even if I run into a situation on the road or on a trail or something, I'll react to it. The emotions just don't kick in until I'm out of the situation. Then once I'm out of the situation, I'm like, oh, that was really bad. That could have been really bad. And then that's when the heart starts pumping. But it's okay to panic then, because the situation's over.
So Gma Rides wants to know, how do you haul your bike when you're traveling?
Great question. And yeah, Sterling got a hold up. Let's take a walk.
Let's go.
I will show you.
I love field trips. Let's do this.
Yeah. So this right here is Smokey the van, a 2004 Ford E250, former wheelchair van converted. And that right there is a 6x10 trailer. And that is how I now carry the bike when I ride. I used to have a Black Widow trailer hitch carrier where the bike just sort of sat across the back of the van. It just sort of went, kind of sideways like that. But I was always afraid of looking in my mirror and seeing what's left of my motorcycle tumbling down the road behind me. So I picked this up in the spring, and this I know I can get some light going in here, separate electrical system and all of that. This is my garage on wheels. That's my V-Strom. It's not tied in or anything right now. I just parked it in here because we're expecting some rain tonight in the desert. I know. I hang up all my gear. I got tools. I got other storage in here. But yeah, that's way more detailed an answer than you were looking for. But yeah, that is how I carry my bike.
No, I think that's what we all wanted to know. I mean, I'm
Exactly. It's a little cold and windy out here, so I'll hop back inside.
all right.
Oh, now the cat woke up.
Yep, you got to show us the cat.
I'm getting some light going so we can do that. That is Lister the cat. He is my travel buddy. He's begging for his dinner because, yeah, it's what he does. Yeah. Actually, yeah, it is just about time, come to think of it, for once. He starts begging at, I usually feed him at 5 local time, and he starts begging at, 3:30 in the afternoon. And I do not negotiate with terrorists, because if I did, he'd keep pushing earlier and earlier, and then twice a day, and no, just got to put the foot down.
So Grandma Wanted Rides wanted to know about the cons of the Black Widow thing, and I kind of think you touched on that, but how was it to use, other than fearing it falling down and eating your bike down the highway? How was it to use?
Well, I can say that never ever happened. I did drop the bike off at the first time I was loading it on. So it comes. There's the it goes across, and there's a detachable ramp that you can hang on one side or the other for loading and unloading. And the first time I loaded the KLR on that, the ramp fell off while I was loading the bike, and that's when the bike fell over. What I learned is I have to use one of my ratchet straps to hook onto the ramp and the carrier and just really strap it together so that won't happen, and that never happened again. A friend of mine, at my request, did attach a couple of side supports on it, just right through the bolts for the Black Widow carrier, and then a couple of bolts right through my back bumper, because it's metal, it's solid, it's already dented, so I don't care if it has a few more holes in it. And that just prevented it from rotating around the receiver. So the bike would end up rocking quite a bit side to side as I was driving down the road. That made me nervous too. But yeah, the biggest con of that, I think, was just worrying about it falling off. The other thing is, if you're carrying a heavy motorcycle, like that rack was rated for 500 pounds. The KLR is just over 400. Rating is 1,000. I mean, all the weights are in order. That was all safe. But it's a lot of weight hanging out beyond the back of the van. So that's a lot more load on the back suspension. Other big con is, I don't know if you saw, this is an extended van. The Fords, when you have the stretch van, they don't extend the wheelbase. They just stretch the back out a fair distance farther past the back wheels. And then the carrier hung out that much farther beyond the back of the van. So As the off-roaders would say, I had a terrible takeoff angle. Any kind of incline or even just sometimes just pulling over a curb into a parking lot, I would scrape the thing on the ground like crazy. And yeah, that was pretty much the biggest con of it. It also blocked my tail lights and my license plate, but I had ways around those. I just moved those to different places so I could be seen. Never got pulled over with the thing, so I guess I did it right.
Right on. Okay, so we're into January now. What are your plans for the new year?
Mm-hmm. Well, since I just got laid off, it's all up in the air. However, my previous plan was to do my plan from last year, but in reverse. I wanted to do a big loop around the U.S. and then across Canada as well, because I love Canada so much. I married a Canadian a while back, not anymore, but I love Canada, and I wanted to see that. With the layoff, my travel plans are really going to depend on what I find for work and the money thing and all that. I do still want to cross the southern U.S. in March. I want to get to the Forgotten Angels camp out in mid-March in Florida. That's pretty likely, actually. And I have family in Florida I want to visit, right in Lakeland, so right in the same neighborhood. Then, as the weather warms up to the north, I want to head north, eventually back to New England, to get rid of my storage unit up there. Along the way, I want to hit like the Tail of the Dragon, Cherahalla Skyway, that whole area on the Tennessee-North Carolina line where there's some great riding. I spent a couple days there on the KLR before, and the V-Strom was just going to eat those roads up even better. I want to do the Blue Ridge Parkway. I've been on most of it before with this van. My now ex-girlfriend that we started this journey together. We broke up about 100 miles from the north end of the Blue Ridge Parkway. So it's a beautiful place, but I've got a lot of bad memories associated with it. So I want to do it again my way. I do want to get the bike out and ride the Blue Ridge as well. So I can foresee myself like leapfrogging from one campground to the next, parking the van, take the bike out, backtrack, ride back, move on to the next campground, stuff like that. So I want to finish the Blue Ridge this time and do it my way. I'll get back to New England. That's where I've lived most of my life. I got lots of friends there. And like I said, I've got a storage unit I want to clear out. That's my last tie to New England. After that, there's really nothing bringing me back there at any particular point. I still got my parents who live in New Hampshire. But, yeah.
All through Tennessee, there's a lot of people that are even more now that I know from this little group. So if you ever go through Tennessee, go through down 40, the Blue Ridge Parkway, the Tail of the Dragon, you'll get a lot of free meals, I'm sure. So come on through.
Very cool. I will do that. Yes.
I was just talking to you were on the stream. I was on there with Parker down the Natchez Trace Parkway is just a couple hours south of here, and I haven't got to do it yet. Carson has done it, and so has Windroad Therapy, and I want to do it. Yeah. They're all saying they're looking forward to seeing you in March, and I am too, obviously.
Excellent.
So
I'm looking forward to being there and meeting everyone finally after talking all these years.
Not to put too much pressure. Everybody that's in the chat right now has been to Forgotten Angels and I've met them down there, except for GMR Rides. Not to put any pressure on you, but are you going to be at Forgotten Angels?
No pressure
at all.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a bit of a hike for her, I know, but I'll be coming from Arizona, other side of the country, so
yeah, she's actually closer to you right now than she is to us.
She is, and after this trip this summer, my usual routine in the future is I've got friends up in Oregon near Eugene. I'm probably just going to bounce between Arizona in the winter and Oregon with them in the summer, and go exploring, both places, go see things, but kind of have those as my home bases.
Right on. Have you got to meet Amanda Zito yet?
I have this past summer a couple of times. She and yeah, that's another one of my plans for this year too. I got tickets to the Rocky Mountain Roll, so I'm really looking forward to that. I've never even been to Montana, so whole new area for me. But yeah, I first met her at a PNW motovlogger meetup. I saw her post about it like a week before it happened, and I was already camping about an hour away from where it was going to take place. So I decided, okay, I'm going to stay in this area until the meetup and meet all these people. So I was able to meet her, Dork in the Road and his crew, a bunch of the smaller channels as well, which is great. I met Circus Bear Moto not very long before his terrible crash. So yeah, I saw the Goldwing shortly before the end. And we met again at Overland Expo, and we've just been talking. Since I'm also not at all a secret, I'm also a motorcycle writer. I write for ADV Writer these days. I used to write for Ride Apart, and I'll write up really good motorcycle videos for the site and stuff like that. And we started talking after I featured one of hers, and I've just been talking ever since. So.
Awesome.
Definitely looking forward to hanging out with her again.
I got to meet her last March, and she was very. A lot of people are bigger in person. She's much more, and a lot of the Forgotten Angels crew is like this. They're so much more hospitable in person. They're like your next door neighbor when you talk to them, and it just blew me away. You could just come up and talk to these people, and it's like somebody you had known, and everyone was just so nice. But
I have found a lot of people to be like that. Amanda's one of them. Shade Tree for sure. At some of the I've done ham radio communications for rally races around the Northeast a bit, and through that I've met Travis Pastrana a few times, and talking to him, it's just like talking to you or anybody else. He's just a regular guy. He just happens to be famous and do some really crazy stuff. But yeah, he was pretty much the one that got me over being starstruck about, well, anyone. I had the chance to interview Ricky Carmichael a few years back, and did I ask him about his racing career or anything like that? No. I asked him, so what advice would you give to a hypothetical 40-something man who is interested in starting dirt riding? And he gave me some really good advice, too.
Awesome. Jimmy Ride says she has room to park a van where she is in Tacoma, so come on up and visit. Is she cooking?
All right.
Jimmy, are you going to cook?
That's a great question. But either way, I passed through Tacoma before I knew you this past summer, and actually I got a friend up in Seattle who came down to visit at a brew pub. So I got to meet him. Like 20-year friend on the internet, never met in person, and we hit it off like nothing. That was great. But yeah, I will keep you in mind because I wouldn't mind getting up to like British Columbia, Vancouver Island, exploring out there, and you're on the way from Oregon, so yeah.
She says she's a great cook, so actually, come on.
Wonderful, even better. I am a terrible cook, so yay.
All right, then. I guess you're set for a meal. All right.
At least one.
So our next question, what is your favorite part of riding?
Favorite part of riding? Pretty much it's similar to my favorite thing about van life, the freedom, getting to get out there, travel, explore, boldly go where I have not gone before, stuff like that. It's even better on a bike because bikes are awesome. Instead of like driving and watching the world pass by through the windshield, you're in the middle of it. If you're going by a cow pasture, you're going to smell it. It's not a pleasant smell, but it lets you know where you are for sure. And also just especially on a bike, being able to, go where my van can't go. I'm very careful about where I park my home. I don't want to put it in much danger, like throwing it down, Forest Service roads where I may not be able to turn around. But on a bike, I can just go, ooh, what's down there? Even if it's a dirt road or even like a trail or something. Ooh, I want to know what's down there. And you see some of the coolest places that way.
Cooter is saying he has good barbecue for anybody who comes through. So Shannon is always saying on Instagram what a fantastic cook he is. So, yeah.
Party of Cooters.
Party of Cooters.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
All right. What is the most frustrating part of riding for you?
I don't like cold. So that is the most frustrating part of riding. And yeah, as the speeds go up, you've got wind chill and all that. Um, yeah, I know I lived in New England most of my life, and I don't like cold. Go figure. So here's how I figured that, okay? So I lived in New England for 47 years before I hit the road. A New England winter is 6 months long. No joke. It's cold. It's nasty. You can get snow at any point in there. It can start as early as October. It can go into May. So by that count, 47 New England winters is equivalent to 94 3-month-long winters. So therefore, 94 winters, I've already had my lifetime of winters. Therefore, I don't have to do anymore, and I'm not gonna. I'm going to go where it's warm. That's why I come to Southwest Arizona in the winter, and skip every winter. But yes, being cold on a bike, definitely my least favorite thing. Now, heated gear does help. I've had a vest that helped a lot. I'm actually reviewing some Kamimoto heated gloves right now, and they're working really well. So that does help. But short answer, I don't like being cold.
I'm with you. I was stationed in Chicago at a base for 5 years, and I tell everybody that I've done all the cold that I want to do, and I'm never doing it again. So,
and you don't have to.
No, it's almost like it's like being in the Navy, being stationed on a ship. I don't mind going on cruise ships because I know I'm going to leave in a couple of days. So, living in the north and visiting in the north, two absolutely separate things. So, I'm with you.
Yes, I have no issue visiting the north. I'll just go there when it's warm.
So Carson's asking me when I'm going to get the KLR. I'm in negotiations right now, so the Harley will probably have to go before I can get a KLR. The BMW, no secret to probably anybody, will stay forever. That K16 is magical. But the Sportster will probably go before I can get a KLR. Just for space reasons, I guess.
You could turn the Sportster into a Dirtster.
I have actually thought about that, but in all knowledge, a KLR probably would be for what I want to do right here. So me and Carson, he talked a while back about doing some of the Transamerica Trail, and he did the Transamerica Trail, most of it from where he lives down in South Mississippi. He made it all the way almost up to Memphis, where I live. So we're actually talking about, kind of getting together and doing some more of that around here, but I've got to get an actual off-road bike to do that. The BMW weighs almost 1,000 pounds, will not cut a good mud groove. So
no.
And then the Sportster,
KLR on the right tires it's going to be the right tool for that. Also, KLRs are practically indestructible. I mean, I should know. In the first 6 months I owned my KLR, I dropped it more times than in my previous 20 or so years of riding ever, because I didn't know what I was doing on the dirt and learning the hard way. So and it took it. My there we go, a little more light. My last street crash was on the KLR. Very simple, stupid, low speed, no road rash, but I locked the front brake up on a patch of sand on pavement, hit the ground hard. The KLR, the original handlebar got slightly bent. I took an ambulance ride because I passed out from the pain, and they were worried about broken bones, especially by my heel bone, which had not 100% healed from being shattered 6 months before. Fortunately, nothing broken, just bruised and off my feet a couple of days, but the KLR definitely held up better than I did.
That's what I keep hearing. I keep hearing people say that even though their performance is a little lacking, they're not really good on speed, they will go anywhere, and they're indestructible.
The KLR does nothing well, but it will do everything.
Yes.
And, I mean, I've had mine on everything from trails, like I talked about, to I had it on the tail of the Dragon. I even took it to a non-sport bike track day in Connecticut. And they had to bump me from the slow to the medium run group because I was too fast around the corners and kept getting stuck behind all the cruisers. It was hilarious. A little 40 horsepower KLR, and it was on the track. That was funny.
I have a friend up in Ohio who owns a Royal Enfield dealership, and so I've been telling her I'm going to go up and get that Scram 411 and try it out. I don't know. They say they're very capable and they'll go anywhere, just like the Royal Enfield, the Himalayans. But I just like the look of that Scram because it just looks so awesome, and it comes in navy colors. Buck Brown was asking about me being a Navy veteran. Yes, I retired from the Navy. I was blue water for the first 8 years, and for the next 12 years, I was brown water, and I worked for the Army, if you can figure that out. I was in the Navy and worked for the Army. Yeah, figure it out. But, yep, that was me. That's what I did.
Very nice.
Any other questions coming from the rally out there? Yeah, I think as far as what if I got a new bike to wreck, it'd probably be a KLR, because you can get almost a brand new one for $5,000-$6,000, and you can get a used one for about $3,000. And they say that you can never really break them.
I just sold mine for $2,500, and when I bought it, it had like all the right mods on it, full Kojin suspension. That's $1,000 right there. It was set up with IMS pegs. It had the bash plate. I mean, it was set up perfectly for me to go and crash frequently, which in the beginning is exactly what I did.
I am, yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I started on dirt, so and they say anywhere is the best way to learn a motorcycle is to learn on dirt, because you learn everything that a bike will do when you lose traction. So
yes,
the weight gives you a little bit more, a little bit less, but I mean, as far as how it's going to slide, how you maneuver out of a skid, once you've learned on dirt, you've got it down. Yep.
I completely agree. I didn't have the opportunity to get on dirt bikes or anything when I was a kid. And then in Massachusetts, there aren't a lot of places to go ride dirt. It was only when I moved to New Hampshire, an area where I have to do dirt, and on my Pacific Coast 800, an older motorcycle covered in hard, brittle plastic that will shatter if I drop it, and is basically made of unobtainium these days because it's a kind of a rare bike. And my only dirt experience, the one thing I knew how to do was crash from using too much front brake, the most fundamental error you can make on dirt. So that's when I switched to the PC 800 for the KLR. I just went from one extreme to the other.
Right on. So if you had unlimited time and you could just get on a bike today and ride anywhere, where would you go, and what kind of bike would it be?
Ooh, and what kind of bike would it be too? Yep. See, this question isn't entirely academic for me, because with the way I live, I actually can go anywhere I want and ride, which is kind of nice. I would love to get back to Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. I did take my PC 800 out there 10 years ago from Massachusetts. Most beautiful place I've ever been. The Cabot Trail is amazing to ride, and there's also a lot of other riding around Cape Breton that I didn't get to see because I was on a week off work and limited time to get out there, ride, and come back. So that's one place. I have been to Sturgis, but I have it in mind possibly this summer to go back there, not during bike week, because then I can go enjoy the amazing roads out in the Black Hills of South Dakota without 250,000 Harleys holding me up. So that's another place I'd like to go. Tail of the Dragon would be on my list, but I've already done that, and I'm planning to do it again. Yeah, and I definitely want to see more of the Los Angeles area. Legal lane splitting is fun, of course, but getting out of the city and up into the mountains, that is where the amazing riding is at. Angeles Forest, Angeles Crest. Very soon on my YouTube channel, it's Smokey the Van, I'll have a video coming out of an interesting ride I took through Angeles Forest between Christmas and New Year's. And it was a little wet, believe it or not. They've had a really, really wet season out there. So that was a little different.
Cooter's asking me if brown water's like being in a Marine unit. No, it's not. It's riverine ops and dirt patrol with the Army.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. We've got river boats. I did. Yeah, my last 12. I never got on a boat longer than 12 meters. The last 12 years of my career.
Wow.
So everything was either steel hull or inflatable hull or Humvee 5-ton 2.5s. So all that fun stuff.
Cool.
Have you inspired anyone to ride or wrench on their own bikes?
Not that I am aware of, but I could be wrong. I throw these videos out there and I write on my blog about my adventures and all that. And, I have been inspired by many, like we were talking about before. I don't know of anyone that I've inspired because my attitude on it is I will never tell someone, I think you should ride a motorcycle. You'd like it. That's a personal choice everyone has to make for themselves. And it's not the right choice for everyone to ride, for sure. If you do choose to ride a bike, then I will do whatever I can to help. But you've got to make that choice yourself. Once you do it, hey, happy to help.
I will ask people if they say, yeah, I used to ride a motorcycle. I'll ask them, why don't you ride now? And usually the answer is, well, it's too expensive. Well, I got married. Well, I got this. I did that. And it's like, okay, well, if you can still get back into it. It's up to you. But
yeah, the reason I normally hear is either they or someone close to them had a big crash, and that kind of scared them out of it. And okay, that's valid, because if you're on a bike and you're constantly paranoid about crashing and constantly thinking about it, you're going to increase your chances of that happening. And yeah, you shouldn't do that. That's just human nature. It's not that they're doing anything wrong, and ultimately it's their choice anyway. If they don't want to ride, then don't ride.
So, if you could tell a new rider one thing that you had to learn the hard way, what would it be?
Keep learning all the time. There is always something more you can learn about riding. We tell people, oh, well, when you learn to ride, take the MSF course. And yes, that's a great place to start, but it's only a place to start. There's practicing, there's training. Like I say, I took the KLR to a non-sport bike track day. The emphasis there wasn't on speed, obviously, or I wouldn't have been on a KLR. The emphasis was on learning and practice, and there were classroom sessions between the track sessions to kind of talk about what problems you were running into out there. It was a place to practice skills, and I learned a great deal about riding the KLR in particular, as well as the PC 800, two bikes that you will probably never see on a racetrack again. I learned a lot on those bikes on a track. If I ever end up back in New England at a time when this event takes place, I'd love to take the V-Strom out there, because this bike will actually be fast. That's new to me. I got to learn how to handle that.
Downtown 650 says he waited his whole life to get a motorcycle, and it's the best thing he's ever done.
Yes.
It's very,
I agree.
liberating.
It is. I didn't start riding until I was in my late 20s, actually, because my dad got rid of his Honda 450 not too long after my memory of him taking me around the yard on it. We never had motorcycles growing up. Fresh out of college, I couldn't afford a bike. I only got my first bike because a good friend gave me a Suzuki GS 650 that had been sitting in his yard for 3 years. He's like, please get this out of here. So, but once I got in, I was hooked, and I'm kind of glad I waited, because when it came to cars, I mean, I've been into cars and motorcycles my whole life. And when it came to cars, I went to the A-Team, Knight Rider, and Dukes of Hazzard school of driving fast, which means sideways everywhere and looking cool.
You've got to yell yeehaw.
Spoiler alert, it's not fast. And you got to yell yeehaw, exactly. So I started autocrossing, which is like racing cars through a tight course of cones through a parking lot or some old runways and stuff like that. You're never going faster than like 65 miles an hour, but you are going as fast as you possibly can to get through these tight turns against the clock. And I started out on that, and like I say, that school of driving, sideways everywhere, squealing tires, sliding everywhere. And then Grandpa, out in his BMW 535i, looked like he was out for a Sunday drive. And why is he 8 seconds faster than me? Finally, I figured out there was something to that. I learned what I didn't know, how to actually drive fast well, and finally got the discipline for that. So then once I was in my late 20s, beginning motorcycling, I knew what I didn't know from the beginning. It was the same thing I went through with the cars, except this time I knew I didn't have a good idea or the experience to control a bike at first. So I took it a lot more easy. I worked my way up. And, I'm not opposed to speed. Ask me about my first highway run on the V-Strom. But yeah, that's, yeah, I forgot where I was going with this. But, bit of advice, never stop learning. Because you always can. Exactly, yeah. And there's always one more. And then even if you become the best street rider in the world, okay, let's try dirt. You're a complete novice because so much of dirt riding is completely backwards from street riding. On pavement, you lean your body in turn. On dirt, you lean the bike into the turn and leave your body on top of the contact patch to press the tires into the soft ground that much more. It's totally backwards and different, and you have to remember what surface you're on.
Well, we're looking for more questions from the crowd, but I have my final question for you. Is tell us one thing about you that no one knows.
One thing that no one knows. That I'm going to have to think about. Because I put a lot of my life stuff out there on the internet. Anyway, people know a fair bit. Geez, I even already talked about my fear of heights, so that's out there now. Something nobody knows. How to go put me on the spot like that? Huh.
That's my job.
Yeah, right. I can definitely tell you something people wouldn't expect about me, wouldn't think about me, is, I'm here all happy, positive, chatting with you and all that. But, depression and anxiety, I've got them. I don't look like it. I'm actually doing fairly well in life right now, despite getting laid off. It's taken, medication, therapy, all that fun stuff to get me where I am. But, there are still days. I still have an emergency anti-anxiety medication supply, and there are occasional days when I need that, where my mind just starts running down everything that could possibly go wrong, and just assuming that that's what's actually going to happen, and just got to be able to shut that off once in a while. Much better today than I was in the past. I had hopeless anxiety and depression in my past. I was a completely different person. But fortunately, I've been able to do a lot of work, and I won't say overcome it. I don't think I'm ever going to get past it, but I'm definitely managing it well now. You
definitely learn better ways to cope with the things you have going on. It never goes away. Mm-hmm. And I hope you know that in this group we have, you ever have any need to talk to somebody, log into Discord, log into Instagram, and you will get some phone calls, because we are always here for you. We're always here for each other. So, man, if you start feeling,
that goes for anybody. Yes,
you start feeling deep, man. You jump on Instagram, jump on Discord, find somebody, find us. I'll always answer that phone. I've never not answered that phone for somebody who's needed it.
Yep, same. And I have done that. I've been on the other side of it, and was able to be fairly helpful simply because I've been there myself, and I know what works and what doesn't work, because that's what worked and didn't work for me. Yeah. So, always reach out. You're never alone.
It doesn't keep you from being sad about it, but it does make you realize that you can get through it and you can move on.
Yep, for
sometimes
sure.
we have to grieve about things, but it's. I think the big part's knowing that it's not the end. There's always going to be
Yeah.
a better day coming.
hmm And it's also good to allow yourself to have the feelings in the moment. Squashing them is just going to bottle them up, and then it's just going to explode 3 times as bad later. You give yourself permission to feel the way you're going to feel, depressed, anxious, whatever. Even better if you can put a time limit on it. Like when I got laid off a week ago, um, I decided, okay, I'm going to take today to just be shocked, because it's a very shocking thing. I didn't see it coming. And I'm just going to take the rest of the day to be shocked. And then it was a Friday. Okay, through the weekend, well, it's a weekend. I'll actually dive into, doing something about this on Monday. And even over the weekend, I was already starting to follow up on leads and stuff like that. And then Monday, I just dove in full force because I had allowed myself to get through that moment of shock and everything else that goes along with losing your job. And then on Monday, I hit the ground running.
Yep, I think we've always been there. Buck Brown
Yeah.
says he got his motorcycle endorsement. It's the best thing that ever happened with dealing with his PTSD. I think not always, but a motorcycle does a lot to totally de-stress you. I think because it puts you. We've talked about this on some other streams. When you're on that motorcycle, it requires you to totally put yourself into that motorcycle and operating it and doing everything with all your hands, your feet, your head, and it makes the important things more important, and it makes the less important things all of a sudden just kind of seem trivial. So it takes you out of a bad place and puts your head somewhere else for a while. And then once you get where you're going, you're like, okay, that wasn't such a big deal after all. I'm going to get through this. Obviously it's always a big deal losing a job, having to cope with your next step, in employment, in life, and whatever. But I think it puts you in a better place to deal with it.
Definitely, yeah. Motorcycling is therapy, and I agree with everything you say. On top of that, it may not be a surprise to many that I also have ADHD. I wasn't diagnosed until I was 23, so way too late for school. But what I have found is motorcycling is really good for the ADHD as well. People who have it crave a higher level of sensory input than, for lack of a better phrase, normal people. And for me, motorcycling is a happy place. It's a much higher level of sensory input than sitting here working on my laptop or whatever. But it's also not high enough so that it turns into an adrenaline rush, like, racing cars and stuff like that. That's an adrenaline rush. And I get a thrill out of that too. Thrill-seeking behavior, typical ADHD trait. But just riding a motorcycle, just not doing anything crazy, just out for a ride. That's the happy place for my brain. So that's just yet another level of how motorcycling is good for me.
Right on. Well, we don't have any more questions from the audience, so I think this is a good time to put the exit music on.
Alrighty.
All right, everybody. This has been another episode of Rainy Nights with Smokey the Van. So happy to have had you on. And obviously, I'll be. Any of you guys want to volunteer to be interviewed? You know the questions. You probably got the answers in your head how you want to answer them. So hit me up, and I will absolutely put you on. So for now, this is Rainy Rider, Smokey the Van, and we're gonna sign off and get out of here.
Bye-bye.